I need to be as big as possible, as young as possible. That was always something that was in my mind. And what stemmed from that was I need to make the perfect decisions within my fitness journey, aka the best exercises, the best workout routine as possible, so I can become as big as possible. That thought process made me less big, smaller, and just less progress in general. And a lot of anxiety and confusion that came with all of that as well. And we'll talk about the reason why later. But first of all, let's say, right, don't even think about optimizing your workout routine if your sleep, diet, etc. lifestyle isn't in check, because that's exactly what I did. I was like, oh, I need to pick the most optimal exercises. I need to pick the best workout routine and do this and like make sure my sets are 1 rep in reserve and all this bullshit. But I ate like shit. I thought I was lean when I wasn't. I slept like shit. I go on and on and on. Which is all. I didn't get enough carbs. I didn't track my protein. Which is all impacting my performance. But I didn't once think like, oh, well, let's get these in check, which are definitely more important. Your nutrition, your macronutrient, your micronutrients, your amount of water that you're drinking every day, your sleep, your recovery, pre-workout, post-workout carbs, your glycogen levels. All of these things impact your performance more so than the exercise that you choose. And I didn't even consider it. Like, when I look back, I just think, you're so fucking retarded. I don't know why I did this. It was because it took more discipline, it took more effort to fix the diet, the sleep, the lifestyle, the micro and the macronutrients. It took things that I didn't understand how they work, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know what apps to use, how to track, how to weigh my foods, cooked or uncooked. And I didn't want to go through the effort, the rigmarole of figuring out how to do it, coming back, trying it, doing it incorrectly, trying it again, and repeating the process until eventually I knew how to do it. But that's kind of what your fitness journey is about, and it just felt for me so much easier to pick a new exercise, and the novelty of it is so dopamine and rushing, and it's so exciting to do something new, but that becomes addictive. And this is where the problem lies. Doing a new exercise becomes fun, but you soon get bored, and 3 weeks in you want to do something else, and 3 weeks after that you want to do something else again, and then you end up going back to the original exercise, and you go around in this cycle over and over again for less gains. It's stupid. So the thought process, I needed to be as big as young as possible, that led into I need to be as optimal as possible, which then led me to change the exercise, change my routine, tweak everything every single couple of weeks. And the actual problem with that is you can't track progressive overload. That's the issue with that. You can't track progressive overload because, all right, let me teach you something right now, because most people that go to train in the gym don't actually understand that this is how the gym works. Strength and muscle are highly correlated. Now, most people seem to think that it's not, but it is. The stronger you get is a very, very good sign that your muscles are getting bigger. And if your muscles get bigger, you have more muscle area, surface area, you will be able to have more muscle fiber recruitment and lift more weight. They go very, very hand in hand. Not always, but they correlate. They definitely do. You can still be like 60 kg and bench more than someone who could weighs 120 kg. That is more so down to technique, especially if the heavier guy has a lot of muscle as well, more so down to technique and execution and fast twitch muscle fibers. But in general, strength and muscle size correlate. So basically, in simple terms, if you're getting stronger with your chest, with your triceps, with your biceps, with your shoulders, over an extended period of time consistently, their muscles are growing, because it's the same person, it's the same environment, it's the same weight. Hopefully the weight's going up actually, but you're doing more reps, but you're doing more, you're lifting more, you're getting stronger, so your muscles are growing. That has to be the only case. It's not like it's multiple subjects where one person's got better technique than the other, or one person's got more muscle than the other in the first place. It's the same person, it's the same subject, it's you. So your muscles are growing when you're hitting or achieving something called progressive overload. So you need to set up your training where you can figure out if you're achieving progressive overload. And the best way to do that is training in something called a rep range. Now, if you're very, very new to the gym, you will not understand what this means. When you go into the gym, and even if you do go to the gym, you might even do this by accident and you do not understand what this means, but this will help you understand it in a much more simpler way. when you go to the gym, most people just pick a set of numbers. They go 3 sets of 8. They lift the weight that they randomly grab that they think they can do comfortably. It takes a bit of trial and error. They pick the right weight and they do 3 sets of 8. Maybe they could have done a couple more, maybe they couldn't, right? Who knows? And they put the weight down and they rest and they do it again and they rest again and they do it again and they go into the next exercise. That's how the majority of people train, young and old. And that's why the majority of people that go to the gym can't bench NJG, are very small. Like, I don't know what the percentage of people can bench 2 plates, but it's like 2%, probably less than that, actually, that go to the gym. And because they train like this, or they do stupid shit that isn't even like, that's like a decent level, to be fair. Like, you could go even worse than that and like do incorrect form and do stupid fucking exercises like with kettlebells that you think you're going to grow your shoulders more and shit like that. Not hating on kettlebell, by the way, just a random fucking example. But yeah, I think it's pretty fucking gay swinging a kettlebell around like a little tart doing Pilates. But you need to train in something called a rep range instead, which instead of picking a random number and a random weight, you need to first start off with a particular rep range. So instead of picking one number, like going for 8 reps, and a rep, for people that don't know, because when I speak to a lot of people, they get sets and reps mixed up. I did 8 sets of this. No, you did 8 reps. A rep is performing the movement. So a bicep curl. 1 bicep curl is 1 rep. A set is a collection of reps that you do, and then you rest break, and then you do another set, right? So a 1 bicep curl, or like easy to show you, shoulder press, 1 rep. But if you do 10 reps of shoulder press and then rest, that is a set of 10, right? I hope you understand that, you idiots. You will pick something called a rep range, which basically means instead of picking 1 number to do, so 8 reps in your set, instead you will pick a range, 6 to 10, 4 to 8, 5 to 9, 8 to 12, 10 to 15, 15 to 30. The rep range doesn't particularly matter. You can build muscle at any of these rep ranges. But what I will say is particularly as a teenager, you will lack discipline. You will lack that ability, especially at the beginning, to push until failure. And the higher that rep range is, the more painful that becomes, because it becomes more of a lingering, burning pain because you're under tension for longer and it becomes more painful, right? So that means it's going to be even less likely for you to actually hit failure. And also, you like to feel strong. But I want to go too far on the other end of being like, yeah, I'll do a really low rep range, because that's when you'll start leaning into poor form and use momentum and etc. So I like to lie somewhere in the middle. My sweet spot, personally, for rep is 5 to 9. But anywhere from 4 to 8, 5 to 9, or 6 to 10 is going to be a very good start for your rep ranges for like the majority of exercises. But then you'll find a couple of exercises which are kind of hard to stay in this rep range. So like lat raises, for example, or rear delt flies. These are things that are using very, very small muscles. You might find very difficult to do for 5 to 9 reps or 6 to 10 reps, purely because the muscle group is so small and it's so hard to stay in that position, like to stabilize yourself to do a rear delt fly standing up with a weight that heavy to fit in the 6 to 10 rep range whilst going to failure, which I'll mention in a second, is very difficult. So I would, for them exercises that you're kind of finding it quite difficult to stay in that medium rep range, 5 to 9, 6 to 10, just up the rep range, do 8 to 12, do 12 to 15, just make sure you're having good form and achieving failure. Failure means doing as many reps as you possibly can. And I've got one simple tip for you being able to do as many reps as you possibly can. It's so fucking simple, it's ridiculous. Just ask yourself, every time you do a rep during your set, can I do one more? Don't have a number preconceived in your head, because you'll get to that number and stop because you're, yes, I achieved progressive overload, but you could have got more. You're still leaving gains on the table. You could have got another rep or even another 2 reps, right? And you've got, yeah, I'm going to get 9. And you've hit 9, realize you could do more, but because it's kind of painful and you're a bit of a pussy and you don't really want to train that hard because it is hurting, especially because it's a leg day and like you've not had too many carbs and you really are hungry and you want to go home and you're in a rush for time, but you're not. It's just a coping mechanism. You call it a day at 9 when you could have done 10 or 11. So instead of falling into that preconceived number trap, just ask yourself, can you do one more? And if you get more than last week, fucking awesome. Great, perfect. This is exactly what we want. But ask yourself when you're doing it, bicep curls. 1, 2, you're kind of like count them in your head. But when it gets difficult, 7, count one more. Can I get one more? Come on, let's go. Can I get one more? Yes, 9. And then if you fail, if you go, can I get one more? And you push and you pull and you pull and you fail, don't get angry at that. Don't get upset. Oh, I didn't get it right. Because it'll fuck with your psychology. At least when you try and get one more and you fail, you know you've achieved failure. And that is the whole point. Actually building muscle, like the anatomy, the science behind it is you put your muscles under enough strenuous activity that they grow from, right? And that's through achieving failure. But then the progressive overload part, trying to get one more out of the last week, is a sign that your training is building you more muscle. You get that difference? So to actually build muscle is to train until failure, very high intensity with resistance training. But the progressive overload is an indicator that that resistance training is giving you your desired result. You see the difference? So just because you've got progressive overload doesn't mean you've ticked the box. You still have to go and train till failure. But the fact that you have achieved progressive overload is an indicator that your training is building you muscle and getting you towards your goal. I hope you really can understand that. So that's exactly how you want to train. But the problem then lies is you'll achieve this progressive overload for your exercise for 2-3 weeks. But then this thought comes back into your mind. Oh, I need to optimize my training. I need to do with this exercise instead of that exercise. So you change your exercise selection. You, instead of doing the regular dumbbell curl, you opt for a machine preacher curl or a Bayesian cable curl because it's more stable. You're not swinging anywhere near as much, which actually on paper isn't a bad decision. I would fully agree with you. Opt for machines, and I'll tell you why soon. That's not a bad decision. You swap it, but then you realize the weights have changed. What you were curling for 18 kg on a dumbbell curl when you were swinging, when you now go into a preacher curl, just because of the fact that the preacher curl machine is loaded differently and it's also a machine, which means that your form has to be a little bit better, so you have to lift less weight. The weight will be lower, and the weight will be now like 13 kg because the preacher curl machine is weighed in pounds instead, and it has kg equivalents, but it's weird and you don't know how the weights correlate. So you're back at the beginning. Pick your rep range, find the weight that's suitable, hitting failure within that rep range, and then going all over again, trying to do progressive overload. 3 weeks go by. Don't really want to do this preacher curl machine. It's not even that good. I'm going to do a bloody hammer curl instead. But again, the weight's different. Hammer curls with a supinated grip, so that means you're a little bit stronger. So now you're back up to the 20 kgs, but you don't know how the weight correlates. So now you're back to the beginning, and you're in that rep range, and you're going again and again and again. I'm all for making tweaks to training when it's for a good cause. Like I said, when you're choosing a machine that's stable, but when you're doing it every 2-3 weeks, you can't track progressive overload because you're repeating this process all over again. You might be training to failure, which is fine, but how are you supposed to know if your training's working? How are you supposed to know if you're building muscle if you're constantly changing from machine to exercise to exercise to exercise? And the weights are different, and the machines are loaded differently, so you don't know if you're actually building muscle because the weights aren't correlating. You don't know if you are, And that's when your training becomes confusing. That's when you lose motivation. That's where you don't see any change for a couple of weeks, which is completely normal. But because you don't understand that you're achieving progressive overload, you're now thinking, oh my God, is it worth it? I'm putting all this effort. I'm training super, super hard till failure in my rep range. And I don't even know if the weight's going up. I don't even know if I'm building any muscle. I'm not seeing any change. Because typically when you go to the gym and your physique changes, it's funny how it works. Like, you'll go to the gym for months and months and months when you're advanced, or maybe even weeks when you're a beginner, and you'll see no difference. You'll look in the mirror and think, oh, fuck's sake, no difference again, still fat, still a fucking chud. And then one day, one random fucking Wednesday morning, you'll wake up, look in the same mirror, standing in the same spot with the same lighting, and you'll think, fucking hell, like, bicep veins popping right now. I'm getting a bit bigger. Waist is getting a bit smaller. Shoulders are a bit broader. Chest is a bit bigger, fuller. Back's a bit wider. What the fuck? Legs are still tiny. Too fucking real. Like, you'll not see any change for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then one day, it pops into place, and then the process happens again. But then during them weeks, you will have no or very, very little motivation. If you're not achieving progressive overload, you have all the reason to quit. And when you don't look good, and you have to force yourself going into that gym when you don't want to, and you're not seeing the results that you want or any change whatsoever, what do you think is going to happen? Really? Really ask yourself, what do you think is going to happen? Because you're not that special. You're not that disciplined. You don't even study when you say you will. You just scroll on your phone. Every time you say you'll do something, you don't do it. And the people that you promised make these fake promises to look at you with disappointment, you know? So when you say, you may be motivated right now, and when you say, yeah, I'm going to lock in, and I'm never going to quit, I'm never going to go in and run, I'm never going to fucking binge eat again, I'm never going to skip a gym session again, I'm going to hit legs twice this week. And then you go right back to your old habit. The only thing that's going to keep you in this game is understanding that you are achieving progressive overload and your effort is getting you somewhere. And even then, that's the funny part. Even when you know you're making progress, you still want to quit. You still can't be arsed going. You still want to do something else instead. You still think, is it worth it? Even when you know you're achieving progressive overload, you're getting bigger and closer to your result. So how do you expect to stay on the path when you're not achieving that? I think that's why most people quit, because they don't understand the concept of progressive overload in the first place. So they don't know if they're making any progress, and they think, oh, there's all this fucking work for nothing, because they don't see results for a few weeks. Boom, bye. You're a couple of days away from looking a bit more jacked and keeping you in the gym a little bit longer, starting that positive feedback loop into looking insane and having a great physique and having the gateway open to the rest of your fucking life. Graduating from university, college, leaving school in year 11, looking and feeling proud of yourself. Girls are interested in you now. Men treat you with respect. People speak to you differently. You look in the mirror and think, I look fucking sick, you know? And then all the lessons that you learn from that will translate into like your studies, and you'll study better because you understand the meaning of doing things when you don't feel like it and the results you get from that. And it honestly, fitness is the gateway drug into the rest of your life. It really is. It's that positive, first, initial, easy thing that you can change that people think is vain and cocky and arrogant. Fuck them. Because you look in that mirror and you're happy. And the lessons you learn from this will translate into the rest of your life, right? So, me thinking that I needed to be as big as possible, as young as possible, caused me to change exercises, which means I couldn't track progressive overload, which made me less consistent. And also, not to mention, it fucked me up mentally as well. Putting all that pressure on myself to be, I need to be as big as possible, as young as possible, was silly. Because who am I to decide if I could be an IFBB pro or not? I can do as much as I can. I could train super consistently. Do I even want to bodybuild? Is another question I should ask myself. But genetics play a big part in how you perceive yourself or how your body, is made. And if you have a preconceived goal of a particular body you have in mind that you've seen on social media of a guy that's 4 years older than you that's lying about his natural status on Instagram, and then you realize that your body doesn't look like that after all that hard work, you get very, very self-conscious. And you put in all that pressure on yourself to get a great result, don't get me wrong, but to still not look as good as you wanted to because your proportions are slightly different. It's not worth it. It's not. Like, go and build the great physique. Go and put all them hours of grueling workouts in, because it will make your life a million times better. It will. But don't put all this pressure on you to be as big as you possibly need to be. When one, you don't even want to bodybuild, bro. You don't even know if you want to bodybuild. When I was saying this to myself, I didn't even want to do it as a career. Now I'm thinking about doing a show because I think it would be fucking sick. Back then I was like, no, I didn't want to do a show. I didn't want to, become a bodybuilder as a profession. But I was doing it for the external validation of people thinking I was really hench, because I probably didn't get a lot of attention as a child. Literally bastard, right? So, and then I was putting all this pressure when I wouldn't hit a progressive overload 1 week, which is completely normal. Like, you may only go up one rep in your rep range like every couple of weeks when you begin, and then every month or so when you become an advanced lifter. every time I wouldn't achieve it, I'd be super angry for the rest of the day. I put myself in a bad mood with relationships, and like, I wouldn't study. All I'd be thinking about is that one fucking rep. Didn't need to, because obviously you can't achieve progressive overload every single session, you know. And then like, also just a terrible body image, not being enough with my own body. Even though I was making great improvements, the fact that I didn't look exactly how I wanted to be, I wasn't big enough yet, somehow meant that my body wasn't good enough. Remember what you're doing it for. You're doing it to improve your body and have a better life, not to fixate on how big your waist is, you know? Like, come on. So don't put all this pressure on yourself to be as big as possible. Just stick to the basics, which is train really hard, get consistent at training, train within a rep range, and hit failure every single set. 2 sets, 6 to 10 rep range, 5 to 9 rep range, hit failure every single set, 2 times frequency, 10 sets per muscle group per week. What more could you want? And I will leave you with one final piece of advice, which is when you are choosing your exercises for the first time, because you will be sticking to them for a while, because that's the whole point of this video. Stick to your exercises, don't flip-flop back and forth, because you won't make as much progress as if you just stuck to them. Please pick stable exercises. And we get a lot of hate on Instagram for this. I don't know why. People are fucking retarded on there. They fucking post GIFs and shit. Piss me off, right? Post stickers and that. Fucking, I don't even remember the fucking, it was like a fucking Eric Menendez, Lyle Menendez's dad as a meme. I don't even fucking know, right? And I'm 19. Like, I should get these fucking memes. I didn't even know that. Like, my For You page hasn't updated. My brain rot hasn't fucking downloaded yet. I've just got onto fucking, the sun memes are fucking hilarious. Oh my god. I don't know if you've seen them, but like Mike Tyson, oh mate, it's fucking brilliant. Anyway, I've been getting a lot of hate for it on Instagram with people like, bench press builds you a big chest, and I was like, yeah, it does, but for teenagers, you know what we're like, because you are one. Like, you just see a fit bird across the room, you load on an extra plate and just die. Like, just happened to me yesterday. Obviously, I was training to failure though. It was a bit different, but like, I hit failure. I tried to go for another one. Asked myself if I could do one more, and I couldn't. So it was like here, and I was dying. Luckily, a girl came across to save me, cheeked up as well. So thanks Jesus for not making me die. Thank God I was weak. But yeah, pick stable movements, because you will load up an extra plate, use terrible form, and not actually grow your chest. You'll start shagging the air, lifting it, basically doing a hip thrust for bench, or like focusing trying to lock out, which is more of a tricep activation movement, like elbow extension. If you extend your elbow with me right now, you could feel the burn in your tricep, you know, not really your chest. Or you're not focusing on shoulder abduction, so you're not isolating your chest as well as you could be, you know. Or like when you're curling, you're leaning back rather than flexing your elbow, which is, again, the function of the bicep. Sorry if I'm really loud. You're flexing your elbow, but when you lean to how you get that weight up, using momentum, you're not flexing your elbow, so less, you know, bias on the bicep, less growth, right? So please pick stable movements, because it's going to be so much harder for you to like ego lift, to use momentum when you've literally got a machine. And also like the fact that you're using a machine as well. I hope my mic is live. The fact that you're using a machine as well is going to like give you a better mindset. I feel like when I use machines, it's like, all right, I'm using a machine and let's lock in with the form. When I'm using bench press, I'm like, let's just get the fucking weight up into from cruise. It's like, oh, me big, strong, me lift weight. When I'm on like the science-based fucking TNF, like, yeah, there's also how it makes up 2/3 of your chest. So if you train flat press before incline, you actually get better growth. I turn into that kind of dork when I use machines. So maybe that will be beneficial for you. Use machines so you have better form and get better growth, faster results, faster positive feedback loop, better physique at a younger age, which is what you wanted in the first place, a better physique at a younger age, right? So yeah, that's what I'll leave you with. Yeah, basically there's just like Gym Starter Pack 101, basically, in the end. What should my title be? What should my title be, guys, at the end of the video? Gym Starter Pack 101, or I need to be as big as possible, as young as possible, in quotes? Leave the comment down below. I'll just make another video. It's fine. Just rinse and repeat the same advice for like the same 4 people watching it. Be like, oh shit, here he goes again. Fucking random people that I know making fun of me on fake accounts. Fuck you. Right? So, yeah. Basically, 2 times frequency, 10 sets per muscle group per week, maybe a little bit less. See what you can recover from. That'll be a fucking sick video. progressive overload, pick a rep range, train till failure within that rep range. So if it's like 6 to 10 reps, if pick a weight where you fail at like 8, and then just try and get 9 the next week. And repeat the process. When you get a 10, up the weight to the next dumbbells over or the next pin down on the machine, because you are picking exercises on the machine. And then you can only do 6 reps till failure. Repeat the process, try and get 7, 8, 9, 10. Repeat the process, get stronger, you get jacked. Train till failure, can you get one more? That's it. That's all there is to the gym. It's not easy, but it is simple. So yeah, I don't have a catchphrase to my videos. So goodbye, you little tart.